I never thought working the graveyard shift at a dingy truck stop would turn me into a believer. But after that night in the summer of 2024, I've been jumping at shadows ever since. The man's face haunts me, pale, dusty, with eyes that seem to look right through you. He sipped that coffee like it was his last taste of the world. Then, poof, gone. No car, no footsteps, nothing on the tapes. And the cops. What they told me still makes my blood run cold. My name's Lena Vargas, and I've been slinging coffee and burgers at the Desert Oasis truck stop off I-40 in Arizona for 8 years. This is my confession, because if I don't say it out loud, it'll bury me. It all kicked off around 2 a.m., the witching hour when the world feels like it's holding its breath. The stop's on a remote stretch between Kingman and Flagstaff, where the highway cuts through endless scrub and red rock, the kind of place where coyotes howl and the wind whispers secrets. We'd had reports of weird stuff before, truckers swearing they saw lights in the old abandoned lot next door, or heard kids laughing when no one's around. I always chalked it up to road fatigue, like the stories from the Flying J down the road in Kingman, where folks say a boy's ghost wanders after a fire back in the 70s. Real tragedy, documented in old newspapers. Faulty wiring trapped him in the restroom, screams echoing through the night. But our place, just a neon-lit pit stop with flickering fluorescents, stale coffee, and the hum of semis idling outside. That night the lot was empty except for a couple of rigs parked way back, their drivers probably snoring in the cabs. The air was thick with dust from a recent storm, carrying that metallic tang of ozone and hot asphalt. I was behind the counter, wiping down the Formica, when the bell jingled. In walked this guy, tired looking, in a dusty suit that seemed outdated, like something from the 50s, complete with a fedora pulled low. His face was gaunt, shadowed by stubble, eyes sunken like he'd been driving forever. He shuffled to the counter, boots silent on the linoleum, no scuff, no echo. "Coffee, black," he muttered, voice raspy, like gravel in a tin can. I poured it, sliding the styrofoam cup over with a nod. "Rough night?" I asked, trying to make small talk. He just stared at the cup, then at me, those eyes piercing. "Always is on this road." He paid with a crumpled bill, old, but legal tender, and sat at a booth by the window, sipping slow, gazing out at the dark highway. But that was only the beginning. He didn't say much else, just nursed that coffee for maybe 20 minutes. I busied myself restocking creamer packets, glancing over now and then. The suit was caked in dust, like he'd walked through a sandstorm, but no tracks on the floor. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the signs, but no cars pulled in. When he finally stood, he left the cup half full on the table, nodded at me, and pushed through the door. The bell jingled again, faint. I watched him step into the lot, expecting to hear an engine roar, but nothing. No headlights, no gravel crunch. Curious, I poked my head out. Empty. The rigs were still there, but no sign of him or any vehicle. My skin prickled. Truck stops get all types, but vanishing acts. I shrugged it off, figuring he'd hitched a ride or something. But the cup was warm when I cleared it, steam curling up like it was fresh poured. I wish I'd ignored it right then. The rest of the shift dragged, but unease gnawed at me. Around 4 a.m., with the first hints of dawn bleeding over the horizon, I decided to check the CCTV. Our boss installed cameras after a string of thefts last year. I rewound to his entry. The door swung open on its own. No figure. The counter tape showed me pouring coffee into thin air, the cup floating to the booth. No man, no suit, just the cup moving by itself, liquid disappearing sip by sip. My heart hammered. I replayed it thrice, but same thing. Yet the cup sat there on the counter now, half full, lipstick free but with a faint smudge where lips would have touched. Panic set in. I called my coworker Raul, who lives nearby, but he laughed it off as a glitch. "Lena, you need sleep. Ghosts don't drink coffee." But I knew better. The air had chilled when he entered, a cold spot lingering by the booth. The sound grew closer. Or was it just my imagination? Dawn broke as I locked up, the desert awakening with that golden haze over the mesas. I drove home to my trailer in Yucca, but sleep evaded me. Visions of the man replayed. His dusty suit, the way he stared at the highway like it owed him something. By noon, I was back at the stop, showing the tapes to my boss, Hank. He went pale, muttering about the place's history. "This stretch of I-40's cursed," he said. "Old Route 66 alignment nearby. Abandoned stops like the one in Villa Ridge, Missouri, where ghosts haunt the ruins. Touches, whispers, apparitions." He mentioned the Tri-County truck stop back east, now Diamond's Restaurant, plagued since the 70s. Customers felt unseen hands, heard cries. Real reports from paranormal investigators, EVPs capturing voices saying, "Help me." Our spot? Built on old mining land, where workers vanished in collapses during the 1800s, their shadows lingering. Hank suggested calling the cops, just in case it was a prank. But the worst was yet to come. The sheriff's deputy, Ortiz, showed up that afternoon, a no-nonsense guy with a mustache like a broom. I played the tapes. He frowned, scratching his head. No glitch. Cameras are new. Then I described the man. Mid-50s, dusty suit, fedora, gaunt face. Ortiz's eyes widened. "Fits a cold case. Traveler named Elias Grant died in a wreck on this highway in 1987. Hit and run. Body mangled beyond recognition. But witnesses saw his car flip after swerving, maybe avoiding something. Suit matched, dusty from the crash site." He pulled up old files on his tablet. Newspaper clippings from the Kingman Daily Miner detailing the accident near mile marker 48. Grant was a salesman en route to Vegas, last seen at a diner, our predecessor building. No body recovered fully, parts scattered by scavengers. Locals whispered he haunts the road, appearing to lone workers, sipping coffee before vanishing. Similar reports from truckers, shadows at rest stops, like the boy at Flying J, peering into windows. I turned, but the chill was everywhere. Or was it him? Shaken, I drove the stretch that night, eyes peeled for anomalies. The highway felt alive, whispers in the wind mimicking engines. Mirrors showed fleeting shapes, elongated shadows darting behind my car. Was it paranoia? Or the mining ghosts from Jerome, migrating via desert winds? Psychological terror gripped me. Every customer looked suspicious, every empty booth a potential cold spot. Lightning cracked, illuminating roadside crosses, markers for wrecks like Grant's. Coincidence or curse? Near the abandoned lot, infamous for EVPs saying, "Stay away." My radio staticked, "Coffee, black." The truth comes out. Or does it? Horror peaked as I returned to the stop for my next shift. Alone again, the bell jingled. No one. But a fresh cup sat on the counter, half full, steam rising. "Elias?" I whispered, voice trembling. The fluorescence flickered, air dropping to freezing. In the mirror, his reflection appeared behind me, gaunt, dusty, then gone. I questioned sanity. Was it fatigue, like truckers' black dog legends, hallucinations from exhaustion? I-40's history brimmed with tragedies. Route 666 renumbered for its devilish wrecks, phantom semis vanishing in fog. Mixed with physical dread, my hands shook, visions of crashes plaguing me. Near closing, a trucker warned, "Seen him too." 87 goes to reliving his last stop. It wasn't just a specter. It was unfinished business echoing. The confrontation hit at 2 a.m., same time. The door swung open alone. Cold rushed in. "What do you want?" I demanded, facing the empty booth. Wind howled, CB in the back crackling. "Help, crash." Visions assaulted. 1987 wreck. Grant's car flipping, body ejected. Real or implanted? I fled to the lot, but shadows encircled my car, elongated, like Jerome Miners. Fighting back, I yelled, "Leave." Silence fell, warmth returning. Either fight, flee, or fall, I chose to uncover. Weeks later, under a full moon, I visited the crash site. Mile 48 cross, weathered. Historical plaques confirmed, 87 hit and run, unsolved. At the spot, air chilled, dust swirling. "Why me?" I breathed. A voice whispered, "Witness." Apparitions formed, Grant, pleading, hands touched, icy, vaporous. I spun, nothing. Racing back, the twist dawned. The crumpled bill he paid with, dated 1987, serial matching Grant's wallet, found empty at the scene. Had I served the dead? No records of his final stop, but guilt lingered. Or was he pulling the living into his loop? I quit the stop the next morning. But last night, my kitchen radio hissed, "Coffee, black." Am I next to vanish on that road? I never believed in the afterlife. Not after 12 years as a night shift nurse, watching patients slip away in the dim glow of monitors and IV drips. But that night in the East Wing of St. Mary's Hospital changed everything. The call button in room 6 kept buzzing, insistent and rhythmic, like a heartbeat refusing to flatline. The room had been empty for weeks since old Mr. Harlan passed. Pneumonia took him, his oxygen tubes hissing faintly until the end. When I finally mustered the courage to check, there he was, sitting upright in the bed, staring at me with those milky eyes as if waiting for his meds. Security footage later showed the button pressed multiple times, but no one, no living soul, entered that room. My name's Elena Ramirez, and this is my confession, because if I don't speak it, it'll haunt me forever. It started like any graveyard shift in the summer of 2024, the kind where the hospital halls echo with nothing but the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant beep of life support machines. St. Mary's is an old beast, built in the 1920s in downtown Chicago, with wings added piecemeal over decades. The East Wing, nearly abandoned now, used only for overflow during flu season, was my domain from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Budget cuts had shuttered most of it, leaving dim corridors lined with dust-sheeted gurneys and rooms sealed with yellow caution tape. I'd heard the whispers from day shift nurses, stories of shadows flitting past windows, cold spots that made your breath fog, and yes, call buttons lighting up in vacant rooms. I dismissed them as fatigue-fueled folklore, like the tales from Waverly Hills Sanatorium down in Kentucky, where nurses swore deceased TB patients rang bells from empty beds. Real accounts, documented in old medical journals and paranormal forums, but I figured it was all psychological, long hours playing tricks on the mind. That night I was alone except for 2 patients in the far end, Mrs. Klein with her hip fracture and young Tim recovering from surgery. The air smelled of antiseptic and stale linens, the kind that clings to your scrubs. I settled at the nurse's station, charting vitals under a flickering bulb, the security monitor flickering with grainy black and white feeds from the hall cams. Around midnight, the first buzz came, sharp and electronic, piercing the silence like a scalpel. Room 6. My heart skipped. That room hadn't housed anyone since Mr. Harlan's death 3 weeks prior. He'd been a fixture, an 82-year-old veteran with lungs ravaged by years in the mills, always fiddling with his oxygen tubes and cracking weak jokes about the food. His passing was quiet, no family, just me holding his hand as the monitors flatlined. The room was cleaned, bed stripped, equipment unplugged. I glanced at the panel, light steady on. Probably a glitch, I thought, old wiring, like in those Reddit threads where nurses reported faulty systems in haunted wards. I reset it from the station, the buzz silencing. But 10 minutes later, it rang again, longer this time as if someone held the button down. Annoyed, I radioed security, old Hank downstairs, but he grumbled about being busy with a delivery. "Handle it, Elena. Ain't no ghosts up there." I chuckled nervously, but the isolation gnawed at me, the wing's emptiness amplifying every creak. But that was only the beginning. The buzzes continued sporadically, every 15 minutes or so, pulling me from my rounds. I'd check Mrs. Klein, sleeping soundly, and Tim, groggy on pain meds. Each time the panel lit for room 6, the red indicator mocking me. I finally trudged down the hall, flashlight in hand since half the overheads were out to save power. The corridor felt longer than usual, shadows pooling in doorways like ink spills. Room 6's door was ajar, odd, as I'd sworn it was locked. Pushing it open, the air hit me like a freezer blast, colder than the AC could manage. The bed was empty, sheets tucked military tight, oxygen ports capped. No one. I flicked the light, harsh fluorescence buzzing to life, and checked the call button, dangling innocently by the rail. Pressed it myself. The station buzzed. Faulty wire, maybe. But as I turned to leave, A faint wheeze echoed, like labored breathing through tubes. My skin crawled. I bolted, slamming the door. Back at the station, I pulled up the security feed. Grainy footage showed the hall empty, no movement near room 6. Yet the button had activated 4 times now. Online forums I'd skimmed during breaks echoed in my mind. Nurses at Linda Vista in LA reporting similar. Calls from rooms where patients died violently. Footage showing doors creaking open alone. I wish I had called for backup right then. The night deepened, the hospital's skeleton crew leaving me truly isolated. Around 2 a.m., the buzz evolved. Intermittent beeps, almost Morse code, urgent. Mrs. Klein stirred, complaining of whispers outside her door. Like an old man coughing, she said, eyes wide. Tim, half asleep, muttered about shadows under his bed. Paranoia? Or something more? I researched quickly on my phone. Articles from Trusted Health and BuzzFeed detailed nurse tales. Call lights in empty oncology rooms after patients passed. Apparitions sitting up, begging for water. One from a hospice in Texas. A deceased woman's button rang nightly until a priest blessed the room. Real stories, corroborated by multiple staff. Steeling myself, I returned to room 6. The hall's air thick, scented faintly with Mr. Harlan's cologne. Old Spice, he'd called it, his lucky charm. The door creaked open on its own as I approached. Inside, the cold intensified, frost rhyming the window despite the summer heat outside. The call button dangled, but the bed, rumpled, as if someone had sat there. A wheeze again, closer. I whispered, "Mr. Harlan?" Silence, then the button buzzed in my hand. The sound grew closer, and then I realized I wasn't alone. Panic rising, I fled back to the station, heart pounding like a code blue alarm. The feed replayed, button activations at 12:05, 12:20, 1:45, 2:10. No figures entering, but a shadow flickered across the door frame each time, elongated and humanoid, similar to footage from Affinity Medical Center in Ohio, where security cams caught apparitions in abandoned halls post-closure. I called Hank again. He arrived grumbling, a burly ex-cop with a flashlight bigger than mine. We reviewed the tape together, his face paled. "Seen this before," he muttered. "Back in '98, room 12, patient died of a fall, button rang for days. Footage showed presses, no one there. St. Mary's history was riddled with tragedies. A fire in the 40s killing nurses, unexplained deaths in the East Wing during the 70s flu epidemic. Forums like All Nurses buzzed with threads. What's your best nursing ghost story? Hundreds of replies mirroring mine. Hank suggested leaving it, but another buzz pulled us back. The door was wide open now, light on. Inside, the oxygen machine hummed faintly, unplugged cords dangling, but the worst was yet to come. By 3 a.m., the witching hour nurses' dread, the phenomena escalated. Whispers filtered through the vents. Mr. Harlan's voice, raspy. "Nurse, help!" Mrs. Klein screamed, claiming a man in the hall stared into her room. Tim bolted upright, babbling about tubes and coughing. I grabbed Hank. We stormed room 6. The bed was occupied. A translucent figure sat up, oxygen tubes snaking from nostrils, eyes locking on mine. Mr. Harlan, gaunt and pale, mouth moving soundlessly. I froze, breath visible in the icy air. Hank cursed, shining his light. The figure shimmered, dissolving like mist. But the button buzzed again, the panel lighting frantically. We checked the feed live. Button depressed, room empty on camera. Real cases flooded my mind. A YouTube compilation of hospital CCTV. Doors slammed. Shadows pressing buttons in vacant wards at places like Old Lincoln County Hospital. Psychological hallucination from stress. But Hank saw it too, his radio crackling with static whispers. "Elena, stay." I turned, but he was nowhere. Or was he? Shaken, we barricaded the wing, moving patients to the main floor. Dawn crept in, but the buzzes persisted until 5 a.m. I confided in the day shift. Dr. Patel, a skeptic, reviewed the footage. "Glitch," he said, but his voice wavered. Later, hospital records revealed Mr. Harlan's death wasn't peaceful. He'd coded alone, button jammed, no one responding in time. Guilt or curse? similar to stories from Nurse Blog. Nurses seeing deceased patients pressing calls, seeking closure. I quit the wing, but nightmares lingered. Him sitting up, staring. The truth comes out, or does it? Months passed, but the horror resurfaced when I returned for a file. Alone at dusk, room 6's button buzzed. Entering, the air froze. Mr. Harlan materialized fully, tubes hissing. "Why didn't you come?" he rasped. Visions assaulted me. His final moments, button failing, alone. Was it my shift? Log showed I'd been delayed elsewhere. Guilt manifested, or real spirit? Lightning outside illuminated crosses in the chapel window. St. Mary's built on old burial grounds, her historical plaques. Psychological terror blended with danger. My hands numbed, vision blurring as if oxygen starved. It wasn't just a ghost. It was unfinished business screaming back. The confrontation peaked at midnight, drawn back by whispers. In room 6, he sat waiting. "Help me," he pleaded. Facing my fear, I unplugged the phantom tube symbolically. "You're free." He faded, smiling. But the feed, button pressed one last time, by me or him. Either fight, flee, or fall. I chose to release. I transferred shifts the next morning, but last night my home phone rang whispering, "Nurse, room 6. Am I next to answer the call? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next.